Hello, welcome to webinar number 2 of 3. This webinar is titled Leverage a Common Data Platform to Assimilate Your Product Data Across the Enterprise. Today's session will be in listen-only mode. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll have my information on the next slide. For those of you that attended the first session, my name is Mark Lakovic. I'm the Vice President of Sales for D3 Technologies. And here's my contact information. So if you have any questions after this, please feel free to reach out. Today's objectives are to review the product data platform. We touched on that briefly in webinar 1. We'll take a look at how PLM and specifically Fusion Lifecycle can help you standardize workflows, connect teams, and integrate data. We'll look at 4 core foundational areas every company should use as a baseline. And within that, we're going to talk a little bit about the product data management to lifecycle integration. In the last session, we talked about domain systems, and we talked about solutions within those domain systems, specifically CRM, product data management, ERP, and even supply chain management. And we talked about the challenges each of those has in terms of extending the information to others throughout the organization. And that's where Fusion Lifecycle really comes into play. If you recall, we called those systems solutions of record, where something like Fusion Lifecycle we look at as a system of engagement. It really helps kind of with all the catch-all workflows and challenges that most companies have, things like defining standards, providing project visibility, providing enterprise-wide accessibility, helping driving milestones and tasks for people throughout the organization, driving more collaboration, accountability, giving you a place for routings and approvals, just to name a few. So this is where Fusion Lifecycle can really add a lot of value to your organization. So that's really what we're here to talk about today, is how do we help you create that systems of engagement? And it's what we call our product data platform. The product data platform consists of 3 core areas. The first one is file and engineering data management. The second one are the workflows and process management. We talked about the 4 core foundational workflows, which we'll go through here in a little bit. And then just a common data environment, which really brings in integration or data aggregation between systems like CRM, ERP, product data management, etc. So let's take a look at the foundation packs, which again are the 4 core management areas of Fusion Lifecycle that we feel are really critical to most businesses. You may remember this slide from last time as well. Think about how your organization is dealing with data between these 4 areas: product management, engineering, quality, and suppliers. What technology are you using today? What are the gaps you're having with data? What are the challenges you might be experiencing with communicating things like product data, documents, change, tasks, etc.? While this is really just a high-level example, you can see how the data teams, processes might be interacting. Now, each company has variations to this map and priorities, and that's okay. That's exactly where a configurable solution like Fusion Lifecycle can come into play. It really allows us to adapt and configure to your specific needs. So let's take a deeper look at the 4 foundational areas that make up the product data platform, what we call foundation packs. They're basically individual workspaces or starter packs. They're the essentials for each foundation pack, and they're built using best practices to help any customer get started. These work well for customers that may not have very well-defined processes in all areas. For more mature customers that do have their processes well-defined, but maybe not necessarily automated, we can configure these starter packs to your differing needs. Either way, they offer a great starting point and keep consulting costs down. Now today we're going to focus mainly on product management and engineering management, so we'll go into greater detail around new product introduction, stage gate workflows, milestones, things like that. We'll talk about item bomb, document management, managing change. For quality and supplier, we'll just give a high-level overview of those for today. Before we get into product management, I did want to just bring up the user homepage. I took a couple screen captures because at the end of the day, really what are customers looking for? They're looking for three things. One, can I search and find the information that I need? What are the real-time metrics for the projects or the activities that I'm working on? And what's my outstanding work? What do I have to do today? That's really what Fusion Lifecycle is about. It's bringing these three things to your desktop based on the information that's in the system. So let's talk about engineering management. So today we're going to talk about item and BOM workspace, item details, classification, documents workspace, change order workspace, and then we're going to talk a little bit about product data management and the integration to Fusion Lifecycle. So here's first screenshot of the items and BOMs workspace. And if you look at the top, you'll see we're just looking at the details tab. Basically, the details tab is a place to just put summary information, which all can be configured. It's just simple metadata and properties. So the fields are very flexible with text, numbers, dates, pick lists, just to name a few. They're all really easily configured and changed to meet your specific needs. At the bottom, you'll see classification, which allows you to standardize product, item, and file properties to dramatically improve the ability to find and compare different items. Any unique metadata for these can be classified under each class, like screws, PCBs, brackets, assemblies, etc. Really makes for reuse and repurpose of designs a lot easier. And then you'll see other tabs like bill of materials, where used, change orders, deviations, and we'll go into some of those next. So here's the next tab over on the items and BOMs workspace, the BOM tab. So you can configure and manage structured BOMs and items in Fusion Lifecycle, which is extremely powerful and easy to use. Just imagine being able to search on an assembly and being able for everybody in the organization to be able to pull up that entire bill of material. You can see things, and this again can be totally configured, but it offers the description, what revision level it's on, if there is a change pending on any of the items, are there documents attached or associated with each of those items, where is the item in relation to the actual life cycle of the product itself, and then if you have ERP integration, you can actually pull in quantity, units, different things like that. One of the really cool features inside of Fusion Lifecycle is what's called BOM Compare. You can see on the bottom image we're actually comparing two different assemblies. One is revision working and one is revision production A, and you can see different dates that you can highlight to do the actual BOM Compare. So today you can imagine this is probably done either via paper and pencils or trying to do the same thing in Excel spreadsheets. So this makes it really very convenient if you've got the right data in the system. And then in the top image, I mentioned Excel. You can actually take this view and export it into Excel or even zip it up and send it to external suppliers if need be. One of the tabs on the items and docs workspace is called attachments. And so we're going to talk about PDM, product data management, integration to lifecycle for the CAD documents. But what this space allows you to do is upload and attach any related files or other types of documents to an item record. This is really powerful. You see here as an example, it's just a Word document, but you can attach any type of file and be able to download it and view it from anywhere. So for companies looking for really powerful viewing, Fusion Lifecycle does a fantastic job. Allows you to view not only 2D but also 3D documentation, supports a wide variety of file types, and also gives you capabilities to do exploded views, markups, comment, measure. You'll see in the bottom image just a real simple markup, and Fusion Lifecycle tracks all those annotations, changes, and who's doing it when. So we're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about change. Beyond items and BOMs, managing those more effectively, I think change is probably a at the top of most customers' list as well. Fusion Lifecycle leverages a really powerful workflow engine. You're going to see it again when we talk about stage gate and new product introduction. Here's a simple example for a change order workflow. And the below image is the actual change order itself. And again, this screen can be fully configurable, but you'll see the details of the change itself, the team that is assigned to managing the change for this. You'll see the CCB review below, and then you'll even see references to whether this is a change request or a new change, who the change came from, etc. Product changes are fully defined, reviewed, approved, and implemented in a much more collaborative environment, which really reduces the risk and speeds the process up for those change orders. Here's just a slightly larger image of an example of the change review board. You can see who the people are on the team, and then below you can actually see the different types of things that are assigned to the team to do. Document updates, document checking, immediate release, update the ERP. Again, those can be fully configurable to meet your needs. In addition, you'll see at the bottom affected items to the change. So you'll see what the item is, where it's at in the life cycle, the effectivity date. Are there anything to do with inventory status, purchasing status with different vendors, or even different production status, maybe tooling or something like that. So again, this can be fully automated to route the change to the appropriate people. So we talked about items and bombs, and we also talked about change. The question we get asked a lot is, well, so how do I get that information into Lifecycle? And maybe how do I, once it's in Lifecycle, how do I get it synced up to my ERP system? And you know, every customer here is a little bit different too. Some customers don't have a PDM system and they're managing that inside of Fusion Lifecycle. Others may have a PDM system, but they want to more effectively use that and tie the data from it to Lifecycle, where you can better manage workflows. And that's really kind of the straight answer for it is, if you've got a product data management system, typically that's what they do well, is managing the engineering or CAD data, manages the file life cycles, revisions. It does a good job at document control and security. Typically where Fusion Lifecycle comes in is to actually provide that item and BOM information to the rest of the organization in a controlled environment. It also does a very good job of managing change orders, change requests, and making sure that the approvals and routings of those are happening throughout the organization. So those are the two areas that we just talked about. Beyond that, though, Fusion Lifecycle can also be the intermediary tool of getting that item BOM data into your ERP system, where it can control costing and resource management and things like that. So that's really where the Vault and Fusion Lifecycle integration that we created comes into play. So here's an example screenshot of the integration management between Vault and Fusion Lifecycle. You can see we're syncing up the items and BOMs into Lifecycle, and we're also handling change orders in design, and we're also handling change orders as approved, which is releasing them into Fusion Lifecycle. Here's a sample screenshot of just property mapping. So you can see at the top, we're just basically mapping the description of Vault in as to the description inside of Fusion Lifecycle. But there's bidirectional mapping for really any metadata that's in the system. And here's an example of the two systems next to one another. So you have Autodesk Vault on the left, and you have Fusion Lifecycle on the right, and basically mapping all the item and BOM data into the Bill of Material tab inside of Fusion Lifecycle. So now let's move into the Product Management Foundation pack. So there's really three core areas that we want to talk about today: product lines and product families workspace, products and NPI, NPD workspace, and then tasks workspace. So just high level, the product lines are nice because, again, the configurability of Fusion Lifecycle gives you the opportunity to modify the workspaces, maybe depending on the complexity of the product lines themselves. If you look at the products and NPI, NPD workspace, most companies follow some stage gate methodology, although it's typically manual. And so trying to gain approvals is often done through meetings and just tracking things through emails. Many companies have several projects going through the NPI process as well, and oftentimes with the same team members. So tracking projects holistically offers everyone visibility to on-schedule or off-track projects just by better visibility of the system itself. As projects are created, you can have milestones automatically generated, even with specific tasks under each one. And we'll talk about this a little bit in the next couple slides. As projects ebb and flow, these milestones can be adjusted, but overall it just assures everybody has visibility at a project level as well as their own individual tasks. So this saves us a tremendous amount of time and holds team members accountable to the dates that are assigned to them. And then last, the tasks show up on each individual's dashboard, so everybody on a daily basis knows exactly what they need to do, and it shows if anything is falling behind. Others can also receive email notifications as to assigned tasks, which is nice because, again, you're not sitting and waiting on emails. It'll be notified, or you'll be notified right within the dashboard itself. So here's an example of how the products workspace might look for you. On the left are the individual product lines, and in each product line you might have additional products that fall underneath here. But within each product you can see the different tabs of the actual details of that product, the BOM, tasks and deliverables, milestones, the stage gate workflow, if there's any attachments associated with it, and then if there's a change log as well. On the details tab that we're looking at here, you can see there's the summary of the product itself, the project summary, so where it's maybe at in the stage gate workflow. You can have product images, market financials, key product characteristics, the actual team that's been assigned to this particular product. And again, this is all totally configurable to meet your specific needs. Here's an example of a 7-gate stage gate workflow. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of companies follow something very, very similar to this, albeit it's manual, and trying to track team members down, different stakeholders throughout the project is often done through meetings and emails, and it's very, very difficult, especially if you have multiple projects going through and a new product development process. But configurable workflows coordinate and control cross-functional new product introduction activities. So point and click, drag and drop workflow editor makes it really easy to create custom processes for improved visibility and accountability. So this is the milestones tab inside the new product introduction workspace. And it's basically it's a configurable template that helps you standardize the stage gate milestones, deliverables, and tasks. And you can set that up by product line, by business unit, product team, or any other designation for that matter. And one step further is for each gate, you can actually have the system create defined tasks and to specific team members. So if you're launching a lot of different products, it makes setting this up a lot easier. But you can essentially set up the milestone event, the target dates, which then gives you warning systems and visibility as to what projects are slipping. And then once you start to dig in to those tasks, you can actually start to see if specific individuals are delayed or late, and you can start putting more sense of urgency onto the projects themselves. So here's an example of the tasks. So on the right hand side of the screen, you can actually see the different tasks that are assigned under a specific stage gate workflow. And you can start to see the start date, end date, duration of the days, percentage complete. And again, you can roll this data up into an overall product line project status, or you can break it all the way down to individual specific tasks. But it really does provide a great view and great visibility of what you've got going on from a product development perspective. While this is not standard functionality inside of Fusion Lifecycle, it does again kind of show some of the flexibility and some of the creative things that you can do. One of our customers asked us to actually look at watching and managing resource time. So in this case, we were able to assign a minimum allocation, a standard allocation based on standard 40 hours a week. And based on that and the tasks that they've been assigned, it actually starts to calculate their actual usage over any period of time that you want. And so by doing it this way, you can start to see if specific team members, based on the number of projects that they're working on, may be at or nearing capacity. So when we start looking at dashboards and reporting, this is really where the power of the system and the power of the data can come. You can create personalized, really graphically rich dashboards and reports to monitor real-time status and trends of what's going on in your organization. And then you can export any of that data into a view, a table, a report with a single click. This top screen is a really nice example of numerous projects that are going through their organization, and kind of just a real quick glimpse of what's the status. And you know, at any point you can dig into those and see what's really going on. And then you've got, again, rich graphics reporting on the lower left, and then certainly any of this data can be exported into an Excel sheet where you can do other things to it as well. Lastly, I just wanted to touch on notifications. You know, ideally, when you get a system like Lifecycle, you want people to be in it, and that's where that dashboard I showed you very early on comes into play, as each individual is going to see what their outstanding work is at a manager level. You're going to see your entire team, etc., etc. But early on, some customers like the fact that they can get email notifications, and so the system allows us to accomplish that. And when you get the email, you simply click on the link inside the email, and it'll take you to the exact spot inside a Lifecycle to do your job. So now we're moving into the quality management foundational area, and you know, quality has a lot of different avenues it can take. Typically, these are the ones we see or are working with customers on as corrective and preventative actions, a problems report workspace. Here, you know, we talked about earlier on as engineering, you know, kind of being the least common denominator for change. Everything has to funnel back through engineering. And while that may be the case, you know, things like quality are really an opportunity for companies to make that whole entire enterprise process more efficient. Problem reports is a good example. Is really anyone in the company can raise an issue. They can take photographs of issues on the floor, out in the field, and make sure that you know, corrective action or an engineering change can take place. The third area is non-conformance and RMAs, and then lastly deviation and waivers. But there's a lot of capability in Fusion Lifecycle around quality. Here's an example, you know, best practice closed loop quality management workflow, if you will. It's centered around a single source of truth for product data and associated documents and files. And it really allows you to connect all the steps involved from problem identification to solution. So in this example, customer solution is delivered, there's an issue and a complaint, an RMA is authorized, non-conformance is created, FMEA root cause analysis is completed, therefore determining a corrective action to take place, and a change request is initiated. And then it kind of cycles through to the Agile product development. But it's complete end-to-end traceability and provides enterprise visibility to focus and prioritize efforts on the most important issues and really help you shorten the time to resolution and improve the effectiveness and the impact on the overall solution. And here's just an example of an actual change order itself. You can see there's the summary, the details of the change, the team that the change is tied to, again the approval board, and you'll also see how it's related to other things. So this particular change is tied to this related CAPA, which is tied to this related problem report, and you can start to see how all the relationships can be managed. So the fourth and final foundational area is supplier management, and really I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail. This is one of the areas that's fairly unique to each customer, but you can manage anything from quotes from your suppliers, supplier bill of materials, manufacturing part numbers. A lot of times the data is housed inside of the ERP system. So this is where ERP to lifecycle integration becomes very, very handy, because you'd have bidirectional feeds between two systems. And that's where now, from a quality perspective or managing change, can really be automated and save your organization a lot of time. So we looked at 4 core foundational areas: product management, engineering management, quality management, and supplier management. And you can start to see how the data, the teams, and the workflows are all very much intertwined. And really, Lifecycle, again, as a systems of engagement, it's really what's capable of taking those domain systems and tying them all together. So we showed development workflow, NPI, NPD. We talked about item and BOM data and how to get item and BOM data in. We talked about milestones, task execution. Talked about engineering change, which could also be affected by others in the organization, like quality. And then overall program execution, which is just where are we at with the overall projects that we're working on. So really, Lifecycle does a number of things. It helps with standardizing process, creates stakeholder collaboration, manages document control and change, helps with milestone accountability, and overall project visibility. And with that, you now have a way to start to tie your process together. What's nice about Lifecycle, though, is you don't have to eat this whole elephant at once. You can literally start in any one of these 4 core areas. Or if you elect to do all 4, you can start in a phased implementation and do one at a time, or even individual workspaces of each foundation pack one at a time. How you implement it is really up to you. There's a lot of ways we can do it, but the point is you have a roadmap. You have a way to connect the vision that you have and get your company connected at an enterprise level over time. And a big part of that overall vision is looking at integrating the data from different systems, and that means different things. We talked a little bit about the bidirectional Vault or product data management integration, but we can integrate to anything. We can integrate to other cloud solutions like CRM systems or on-premise solutions like ERP. We can integrate to commercial applications and other corporate IT systems, and even really any type of database at all. We have ways of helping you migrate data from those existing tools into a Fusion Lifecycle, or consolidating a lot of disparate databases into Fusion Lifecycle. And then of course, once you have that single source of truth, it now makes it a lot easier to report, be able to create dashboards and different views of your data. In the next webinar, we're actually going to start to talk about how do you get started, what's the process for helping you take the next step. So we're going to talk about that in webinar 3. For now, I just want to touch a little bit on this foundation and starter packs and really what that means. So the foundation packs, as we've mentioned a few times here, are a combination of out-of-the-box starter packs, connected to streamline processes and help you automate tasks. The foundation packs include the discovery process. So we come in, sit down with you or any key stakeholders that you have, and really just try to understand and listen to what you're doing today and where some of the challenge areas are. We look at some process and workflow mapping. If you have schematics or things mapped out or even just documented, that's a great place to start. We also look at other of those domain or department process integrations to see where the data is and what data is prioritized maybe to start with first. And then we look at in our methodology of Agile methodology, which is a phased implementation. As I mentioned on the earlier slide, you don't have to do all this at one time. We can start in smaller chunks and help you grow over time. And then this includes project management, mentoring, administration training. And we also start the process of at least looking at the data migration or systems integration. We at least want to know what those systems are, what data is in them, and what you'd ultimately like to see as a vision long term. So here is our Agile methodology. Map it, build it, validate it, and adopt it. So in the next session, this is what we're going to focus on and really help you lay out a process, a foundation for which to help you get started. And that will be in the final webinar, webinar number 3, Add Immediate Value by Getting Quick Wins, Adoption Strategy. And that'll take place on November 9th at 11 o'clock. And we hope to see you all there.